In this next podcast, we talk about UFC 13. Um, it was a middleweight tournament. First time I had to cut weight, and I talk about my experience with Mark Coleman being in the corner. The pressure that I had in fighting such an elite wrestler like Royce Alger, and it'll be an interesting episode. So don't miss it. Right on.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Yamatodamashii podcast. It's been a while since we've done a career episode. And if you guys remember, the last one we did in Enson's fight career was Ray Zulu, which was your initial preparation, right? For the episode we're going to be talking about today, your UFC 13 fight against Royce Alger. So maybe those that didn't quite check out the episode or have still got it on their list to watch, just remind them the reason you took that fight was because you wanted the feeling of different rules, right? Sayama had let you allow elbows in the fight.
Yeah, and it was I think it was less than 2 months before the UFC.
Yeah, it was super close, right? So I wanted to ask you about your preparation for this fight because you had to cut weight, right? This was one of the initial light heavyweight tournaments in the UFC, and you were actually over the weight limit at the time.
The first time I had to cut weight.
So what was that experience like?
Oh man, it was I think it was 90 kilos I had to cut down to. And I'm not a weight cutter. It was rough, man. For me, I always try to keep weight on when I fight because I always fought bigger guys in pride.
Yeah.
So for me to have to, I was really interested in fighting someone my size, or someone that's not going to outweigh me by 60 pounds of muscle. I was excited about that, but I really wasn't keen on the weight cutting, man. So it went really hard for me because I scratched and bit for every pound. I remember going into the 2 days, the day before the fight, I think I was 2 pounds over yet.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day, it was in the hotel fitness room with that little bootleg. It was a little round digital scale. It was a little bootleg one that if you stood in the front, it got lighter, and you stood in the back, it's heavier. So I remember going onto that scale, and I remember we used to go into the room and test the scale and see where the best place to stand was. So the best place to stand was 90. I was 92. Oh wait, I was like two or 3 pounds over yet. I remember that morning before the weigh-ins, and when I went in, the day before the weigh-ins, I went in, and Tito Ortiz was one of the alternates fighting on the middleweight tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So he was there too. And I jumped on the scale and I said, 3 pounds. Like, oh, fuck. So I said, I got to go to the room. I didn't want to tire myself out by running or anything. So I decided to go to the room and put on sweats and turn on the heater and, spit in a cup, that kind of way. And I remember Tito Ortiz, after I jumped off the scale, he jumped on and he was 10 pounds over. And I was thinking, holy shit, 10 pounds. And he says, perfect. I was like, whoa. And I was saying, wait. 10 pounds over is perfect. He goes, yeah, I'm just the morning before the weigh-ins, I'll just jump in the sauna, drop that 10 pounds, and perfect. I'm like, you could drop 10 pounds in the sauna? I was like, whoa. But Tito's a wrestler, so I think wrestlers are their body's accustomed to dropping weight like that. So for me, man, it was a nightmare. I mean, I remember dropping the weight in the room, and I remember like going into the bathroom and seeing like, without even trying, I was looking at I got freaking abs. I was like, whoa, abs, where you been all my life? That was one of the few fights that I think only 2 fights in my life that I've actually had really ripped abs. So I know I have them. It's just hidden under a layer of fat now. I know I have them. I've seen them before. They're there.
The kegs in front of the 6-pack.
Yeah.
That's what I say anyway. But just on that note, I mean, you're well renowned as being one of the most mentally tough fighters in the history, given your history of fights. Weight cut is such a mentally challenging thing, right? Is there any advice? I know you only did it like the one time, but any advice you'd give for people having to go through a tough weight cut?
Well, I don't know how to give advice on having a good weight cut, but all I know that weight cutting is real dangerous. And I would give, if someone has to drop a lot of weight, make sure you have a nutritionist or someone who knows the body really well. Because back in our day, it was pretty much tough it out, man, tough it out. It's a matter of weight cutting and not weight cutting is about toughing it out. That's what it was for us. But now it's such a big health issue. It can cause a lot of problems with the hormones. It can, especially for women, it can really damage. Sarah had a bad weight cut once, and I was on this point that suck it up, stay and fucking die in the fucking sauna. Your response was a weight cut. You dropped that weight. But then when I went and reached out to who did I reach out to? I reached out to one of the wrestlers that I know, Frank Trigg.
Oh, right.
I reached out to Frank Trigg and I said, hey, this is what's happening. Sarah's getting dizzy. Her vision's getting blurred. What should I do? He goes, get her out right now. Get her out. I'm like, whoa. Yeah. So my idea was tough it out. Tough it out, man. You see TOF when they had problems with weight cutting and people just go in the sauna with you and stuff and tough it out, But from what I understand now, there's a big health issue to it. So I would just, I don't know how to weight cut myself. So if I really had to extremely weight cut, I would, consult with a nutritionist that knows the body and knows what happens to the body when you drop too much water. So, I hated it, and I still don't know how to do it. So, advice from me besides that would probably be worthless.
Well, no, I think it's good advice to get the professionals involved and see what they can do. So, I mean, what I was curious about, right, is this this day and age, fighters are contracted to one promotion, but obviously you were a Shuto fighter. Did you feel like you were really representing Shuto when you went into the UFC tournament?
Yeah, like I said many times, it wasn't about money in our day. Like Shuto wasn't paying me a shitload of money, So my loyalty wasn't financial. My loyalty was in my heart. So whether Pride paid me more or not, I still, because Shuto gave me my start, I still considered myself a Shuto fighter. Even if I went to the UFC, even if I went to Pride, I was a Shuto fighter fighting in Pride. I was never, I never really saw myself as a quote unquote Pride fighter, which a lot of people, see me as today. I still see myself as a Shuto fighter that fought in Pride. I was one of the fighters in Pride that came from Shuto.
Initial and only first Shuto heavyweight champion, right? So that's a title that no one else can claim. So, what were your thoughts going into? I mean, had you ever been to Georgia before?
No, back in that day, there was a problem of most of the states. It was illegal. It was still considered human cockfighting. So, I think Augusta, Georgia, was the only country. Was one of the few ones that was okay with it. So, man, I remember that after arriving, I don't know where we flew to. Somewhere in Atlanta, we flew in, and I remember it might have been Atlanta. I don't know. I remember we had like a 3-hour drive to Augusta.
Oh,
yeah, it was a trek to get there. We felt like we were going into the boonies, man. It wasn't the boonies. It wasn't a big city at all.
Really, really, like I don't know enough about it. Like the place, I've never been to Georgia, so I've never been to Atlanta, so but it looks like in the broadcast when they show the clips, it looks like really like you say, a rural town sort of thing.
It was rural, but I can't really tell you what the town really was like, because whenever we used to travel for sports like racquetball or fighting, it was always a hotel in the arena. We didn't really do much, and by the time we had free time after the fight to do things, we were flying out. So I've been all over the world. I went to Italy with one of my students, but all I saw was hotel and arena, maybe the supermarket. Other than that, I didn't get to really see Italy. I didn't get to see Augusta, so I can't really say. I can tell you what the hotel was like. It was like any other hotel. The arena was the same arena, same octagon we saw all the time. So, I can't really say much. I heard it was a very rural country town. So, that's all I can take from it. I don't remember Augusta that much.
Yeah, I hear a lot of fighters that kind of say they exactly the same thing, right? They traveled so much for fighting, but they never really got to experience the place that they're in. So a lot of them like want to go back and see what it's like. But
yeah.
At what point did you find out who else was in the tournament?
I think I found out right away when we were put in the tournament, but I didn't know anyone. Only knew Guy Mensker because he was a pancreas fighter, so I knew how good he was. He was well rounded all over.
Mhm.
So I knew Guy was going to be a tough fight. And then Leninger, I never heard of him. I heard he was a judo guy, and I heard there was a wrestler. I didn't know who the wrestler was. I didn't follow wrestling, so I didn't know how elite Royce Alger was. I didn't really know. So there was no time to get intimidated. All I knew was it wasn't like today. I knew I didn't think I was going to win. I didn't expect to lose either. But all I knew was if anyone was going to be better than me in the tournament, they were going to have to be more ferocious and more technical than me to beat me. And if someone's good enough and more ferocious to beat me in any day, hats off to them. So I wasn't like I'm going to beat them. I'm going to win for sure. It's like I'm going to give 100%, and whoever beats me had a better 100%. So hats off. So that's the attitude I went in with. There's no pressure, man. If the best me can't be the best you today, that's the way the universe runs, man.
Hmm. And did you hear all the noise going into the tournament about Royce Alger at all? Because he was, you can hear it on the broadcast. Guy Meska said it as well when we spoke to Guy about that. Royce was deemed as the favorite. He was a Hammer House guy. He was a highly touted wrestler. Did you hear that going into the fight?
Oh, well, boy, did I hear it, man. Everything about that whole thing was about Royce Alger.
Mm.
They were overlooking me. They were overlooking Leninger. They were overlooking Guy Mensker. They were totally like about Royce Alger. This Royce Alger, that Royce Alger wrestler. How good are they? That's when I realized, holy shit, this guy must be a good wrestler. But wrestlers, I was like I love fighting wrestlers because they were so good at what they do. They weren't that cautious about armbars. So I just felt that they're very susceptible to armbars. And I remember hearing Royce's interview when he said Coleman was a good catalyst for the sport, but now it's time to bring in the A team. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Coleman was a good catalyst, and you're the A team. Like, holy shit, this guy's must be super good. So I felt that, wow, this guy's really good. But, regardless, the better wrestler has better takedowns. The better wrestler has probably better stamina. But the better wrestler doesn't mean he has better submission defense. And I believe that if I grabbed his arm, I didn't believe if I grabbed any human being's arm, whether how big he is or not, my hips are going to be stronger than your arm, no matter what. So I felt that, if I could, capitalize on the fact that wrestlers didn't know submission wrestling, I thought I had confidence that I could do it. It's a matter of if I had the right timing, if the luck was on my side, if, he made the mistakes, he wasn't as cautious, it mattered. I mean, I'm not better than Rice. I just was better than him that day. Actually, he's a good one to try and get onto the podcast.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear his side of the story as well, right?
Yeah,
because of all the pressure that he had in. So maybe we can try and reach out and see if we can set that up. Or at least, or maybe Mark Coleman. Be interesting to hear like he was in his corner for that fight. So be good to.
Hey, you know what I heard, which is a good teaser for people watching our episode. Mark Kerr was actually in town just last week.
In Vegas?
He was at Extreme Couture, and I don't know. It sounds like he's doing really good because Eric Nixak said he was training. He came to work with Nixak, and I asked him how he's doing. He's looking pretty good.
Wow, that is an exclusive.
Yeah, Eric actually mentioned to Mark that Enson's coming in next week, and he was like, "Oh, damn, he's going to be gone." So Eric said he's going to try and get Mark's contacts so I can contact him because I told him I want to get him on my podcast, and Eric was like, "Shoot, let's do it. I'll see if I can get his contact." So fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's definitely a big episode. So people watch out, look for it, keep subscribe because it's coming soon. So back to UFC 13. Talk me through the fight. I mean, did you have a specific game plan for Royce, knowing that he was a wrestler?
No, like all my fights, man. I always feel that the only time you can really control the fight is the first 10 seconds. When you're not even in contact and it's starting off, I'm either going to walk into you like I did with Randy and throw a heavy low kick, or I'm going to go in and start brawling with you like I did with Igor. I believe that that's the only time you can really prepare for a fight. Other than that, it's pretty much ab lib. You got to go with how it goes. And it's all your duty to, you know, put yourself in all different predicaments in training, in the training sparring room, that no matter what situation comes up in the fight, you're familiar with it. So for me, the only strategy I had was the first 10 seconds. And knowing how good a wrestler Alger was, I knew that his shot was probably going to be amazingly fast and he's going to travel really far. So my whole thing was, I'm going to fake a punch and see if he shoots. And that was the only strategy I had. After that, it was pretty much go as we go, you know, see how good he is at defending the armbar, see how good he is at, you know, doing all the things that I'm going to try and do to him, what kind of defenses he has, what kind of counters, you know. That was the only thing. And, you know, if you watch the fight, it actually was a good thing that I did that, because I actually threw that feint far away. I threw a feint real far away. And if you watch that fight over, try watch the distance he actually traveled and almost still got my legs.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky that I didn't actually throw. Usually when you throw a feint, in order to be accurate or actually get a good response from the opponent, it has to be in that range where you can hit him and then throw that feint. But I did it from far away and he shot. I was lucky. And I barely even still sprawled on him.
Yeah, I mean, talk me through it. I mean, it was a hell of a sprawl, though.
Yeah, well, it was. I had a lot of time to see this tackle coming because he shot from so far.
So far, right?
Yeah, and you know, I think that's a part of due to his inexperience in MMA. That you know, wrestling heel, you know, you touch and go, and you get into that shooting distance. But because there's punches, I think there's a little bit of insecurity there that he shot a lot earlier, which was lucky for me. I got lucky because I got him into a guillotine. And my inexperience also, I was still a pretty new fighter. I was excited. I had him in the guillotine and just started throwing elbows. And, you know, Egan was screaming in the corner, elbow, elbow. You know, you can hear him saying that. And I forgot about the base on the arm. You know, I just elbowed, and with his level of wrestling, he just dumped me over the top, and I ended up on the ground, which I was okay with too, because I practiced, knowing that I was fighting a wrestler, I practiced a lot in the guard. I worked my guard like crazy, you know, hitting from the guard, uppercuts, hooks in the guard, you know, tying up the arms, you know, and working arm bars from the guard. So it was you know, like the Randy Couture fight, it wasn't an unfamiliar place. I was comfortable on my back and felt okay knowing that he's a wrestler, and I didn't feel he understood arm bars.
Yeah, and I mean, talk me through the armbar, right? That's such the snap on it just really looks like, you know, grade A jiu-jitsu right there.
You know what was so funny is it didn't show in the video, but I think right when I attempted an armbar before that.
Oh right, yeah.
The John McCarthy was right in that view of the camera where I didn't see it. It was a split-second attempt, and he defended really well.
Right.
So yeah, I was like, well, shit, he's watching. He knows his armbar. So I was kind of like in that moment, like, oh, damn, I gotta see what I can do now, because this guy's actually defending the armbar. So he did do his homework, but I think it wasn't that instinctive. And when he hit me with a few punches, and when he started getting hit also from the bottom, I think it just flustered him just enough to set up that armbar. And I remember, you know, that after I missed the first one, I remember just staying on guard, hitting, and then I caught him with a couple of nice uppercuts. I remember, oh shit, I got another opportunity, and I remember swiveling my hips and locking it in. And usually in jiu-jitsu, what they do is they stack you, because your hip extension will break the arm. So what they try to do is beat the leverage and try and stack you before you can get that 45% angle on your hips where you can extend the hips. Yeah. Once you get that 45%, no arm in the world is going to beat a hip. The muscle is just too big. So I remember that he didn't stack me. And so what I did was I just kept that pressure on the arm. And he made the biggest mistake that, you know, of course, someone that doesn't understand submission wrestling, he lifted me off the ground. And what that created was a whip, because I was already at full power trying to extend my hips. The only thing stopping me was the ground, the mat. And as soon as he lifted me up and the mat left my back, it was like a pendulum. Whoop. And because my extension was already going, it was like a whip where as soon as I left the ground, and whoop, and I popped a lot of arms in practice and in fights. They even, Edo de Clef, his arm, I popped his arm. But this pop is a pop I've never had and never had ever again. It was one big. Usually, you can feel the tendons either rolling over or ripping. You can hear a pop, 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 pop. Even all the arms that I got, there was all these little pops. But Royce's one, I'd like to get him on the podcast. I want to find out what happened to his arm because it was one huge pop. I remember it in my cross, like, oh, I remember thinking, I fucking broke this guy's arm. And immediately he started holding his arm. So I don't know what damage it actually did, but I know that pop was one of the nastiest pops I've ever had in my whole decades of doing jiu-jitsu.
And you got the submission, beautiful armbar. The celebration is always one that really sticks with me because you're just so calm when you walk off. It's like another day at the office for you. Talk me through that.
Yeah, that was a real interesting thing because I always say that the celebration you see in the ring after the fight showed insecurity and anxiety about the fight. And that can change. Like I can go in with this confidence that I'm confident I'm ready. And then I can, in that way, like I did in the UFC, is I won the fight, and you could see in the celebration, I could be like, yes, I was just like, yes, thinking, okay, next, one more fight. That's what I was thinking. And then you could actually be a fighter where faces adversity in the fight. So although you're going into the fight real confident, as the fight goes through, you could lose the confidence. You could get a lot of anxiety, which would cause you to celebrate in the end. But the interesting thing is, I always tell people to try watch the fighter in the corner, and you can see how much insecurity or anxiety there was in each side. And sometimes it's not the same. Like if you notice that fight, as soon as I won, it was almost like, yeah, fuck yeah, I knew I was going to win, or I had confidence I was going to win, and I did it. Yes, I did it. And it was a real quiet, little fist pump. And then they pan over to my corner, and they're going nuts.
Egan's practically falling in the octagon.
Swearing, and it's like shouting Youngs, and they're going, fuck yeah. My buddy Big Ken's jumping up and down in the back, and I'm thinking to myself, they were fucking worried.
Yeah.
They were fucking worried about that fight. Like, damn, you guys have more confidence, But yeah, it's kind of interesting that, I remember that I felt like, yeah, I could do it. I knew I had the ability to do it. And then the whole thing on my head was, you can't celebrate. It's a tournament. You got one more fight. Just get back to the locker room and get recovered, get ready for the next one. Guy, I remember, had a long fight, a hard fight, and I'm coming in fresh. I'm going to take it to him. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be like Shuto against Pancras. It's even more interesting,
Yeah.
Yeah, so everything went really well. I mean, up until, I remember if you watch the interview after the fight, I remember getting interviewed by Joe Rogan with hair.
Yeah.
And Enson
debut,
with hair, interviewed with Joe Rogan with hair.
I think he debuted at UFC 15.
Yeah, I think that was his debut. But I remember my eye was a little funny. I remember you can see in the interview I'm kind of like touching
twitching.
It was kind of weird. It felt weird. So, after the interview, everything was fine. Okay, get back, lay down, get ready. And then I did the biggest mistake that, it's like a fighter's rule now. Don't blow your nose 24 hours after your fight, whether you got hit or not. So for me, I didn't know the rule. 1, 2, I didn't think I really got hit hard. I felt like I got grazed in the face. And so I decided to blow my nose. And I just went, I wonder if I got blood in my nose. When I blew my nose, it was such a weird feeling. I mean, it's a feeling I've never had ever and never had again. But I felt like the air was coming behind my head and was like pushing my eye out. It was weird shit, man. So I remember as soon as I blew, I was like, whoa, fuck. I held my eye like this. Like, shit, my eye feels like it's going to fall out. So you can ask me what's wrong. I said, shit, my eye. I feel like my eye was getting pushed out by air. And he was let go. I let go, and my whole eye was all filled with air.
Fuck.
So Egan freaks out, calls the doctor. The doctor comes in, and he comes. He goes, the fact that you blew your nose and your air got in, they say that there's a real thin bone plate, almost paper thin, that covers your whole face. I'm not a doctor, I don't know, but they say that it's a face, like a little thin bone layer. And any little hit or any little touch could create little hairline cracks in it. So apparently I might have got hit in a way that it cracked it. And what that bone plate does is it holds it restrains the air in your face, which is sounds real weird, but when you blow and if there's a little crack, it'll come out from that crack. So I'm like, the doctor's like, yeah, you got a crack in your faceplate. Your orbital has a crack. And I'm like, I said, so? He goes, no, I gotta stop them. You can't fight. And I'm like, and I'm thinking right there, all the hard days, all the 3 months of hard training and blood, sweat, and tears is going in my head. Like, fuck that. You can't stop the fight. I got a little crack in my bone plate. I can't see out of this eye, but I can see out of this eye. I got all my limbs working. I'm fresh. He's tired. No, I've been through way more in those 3 months than this fucking little crack in my bone plate. And so I start pushing on my eye. I said, see, it's not sore. I'm okay. And then he told me, Enson, there's so much air in your face right now. You're not going to feel it. And besides, he said, if there's even a hairline crack in this bone plate, if you get hit in the wrong way, again, your whole cheekbone could cave in, he told me.
Whoa.
And he said that will be like reconstructive surgery and really bad. And he said, I'm not allowing you to fight. And I remember, man, it was weird because I remember tears coming out of my eyes saying, fuck no, man. They fucking stopped the fight. I'm out of the tournament. They stopped the fight, you know. And it wasn't about having the middleweight title. It wasn't about anything like that. It was just about continuing with the quest that I put myself out to be, that I trained 3 months hard, blood, sweat, and tears, and put everything I got into it. You know, it was about not being able to continue on my quest that I dearly in my heart wanted to fulfill. Win or lose, I wanted to fight the tournament, you know. So, yeah, that was freaking heartbreaking. So, you know, sweet, man. It was, I couldn't really celebrate because I almost felt like I lost. I lost the you know, I won the fight, but I didn't get to continue. So, kind of a bummer.
It's good to clear that up, though, because on the broadcast, there's no mention of it. It's just like, oh, Enson sustained some sort of injury. And it's kind of like, if you haven't read your book, plug for the book, but if you haven't read it, then you don't, you know, unless you've sort of heard or looked it up online, you know, a lot of the new UFC fans will go and watch, will be like, oh, I wonder what happened to him like there. And so it's,
he pussy out, man. He might have pussy out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, finish work early.
So I remember though, the two things I want to mention also in that fight was really weird because I fought in Japan up until then. And you know, Japan, they're very knowledgeable about positioning. They're very polite. So, you know, you can pretty much hear nothing in the arena. And then when there's like an exchange of positions where you pass the guard, in Japan, there'll be like a ooh, ah. But I remember, man, walking into the arena in Augusta, I remember drunk, you know, there's no drunk people in Japan screaming and shouting, but there was half the people were freaking drunk. I mean, screaming stupid shit, like, kill him, fuck him up, you know, I mean, just screaming. And it's like, whoa. I'm like, it was you know, it wasn't disturbing for me. It was more energetic because I already feel like locking two people in a cage is kind of beastly, animalish. And just that atmosphere with the crowd screaming, acting stupid, just created to that we're going to go in this cage and fucking kill each other, you know? And I remember the fans, I mean, Enson Inoue, they announced that although I'm American, I'm from, you know, Hawaii, they announced from Omiya, Japan, or they said Omaya, Japan, or Omiya, Japan, which was, oh, I'm from Japan. And it was me too. I felt a little bit of a pride coming from as a Japanese fighter. Although I was American, I wore the Yamatodamashii in the front.
It was the debut of the shirt, right?
Yeah, well, you know, that was actually the first time we even thought of wearing it. Before it was even purchasable, it wasn't something, I didn't wear it because I thought I could sell it. It wasn't even on the idea. My whole thing was representing Japan because I fought in Japan. Japan gave me my start. I wanted to not I'm Japanese, but I'm a fighter from Japan. You know, I was loyal to Japan. I remember talking to Egan before, thinking, shit, I told Egan, I want to put something, you know, kanji because it shows I'm from Japan, you know. So we're thinking of all the different kanjis like kamikaze, ichiban, you know, all these different kanjis. You know, ichiban is two kanjis, kind of small. So we're thinking more of looks. And funny because our interview that I had before that, one of the uh, interview guys mentioned Yamatodamashii, saying that Enson, this is actually the guy who named me, but he actually said that Enson, when I see our fights and when I watch your interviews, the first thing that pops into my head is Yamatodamashii. I'm like, whoa, what is that? He goes, it's a spirit of the samurai. I'm like, wow, cool. So I didn't really know the depth of the meaning of the word. I didn't know that loyalty, compassion, you know, courage, all those stuff encompassed Yamato. I just thought it was the samurai way, you know, you're tough, you never give up, you know. So when he gave me that, I was like, oh, that's cool, but never took it too deep. And then when I told Egan, like, yeah, well, how about Yamatodamashii? What does that look like? We looked at it. It was like a 3 kanji. And I don't know. I don't remember deciding on making a shirt. I remember like, okay, that's cool. That's a cool kanji. Maybe that's good. And Egan was actually the one who actually put it into motion. He called one of his friends, Todd, and said, hey, we want to print some shirts for Japan so Enson can wear our fight shirts. And every time we did a fight, we always did fight shirts. So we did a fight shirt. Not a shirt to sell, because back in that day, there was no MMA merchandise.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when Egan came up, I saw it like, oh, wow, that's perfect. That's actually super perfect right across the chest. And that's where the birth of Yamatodamashii t-shirts happened. We had some extras. So I took them home back to Japan. And when I got back, I offered some people in my gym. And I remember one of the fighters, Noboru Asahi, he looked at me and said, wow, no, I'm not wearing that shit.
Really?
I'm embarrassed to wear that. Because that word was only used by Yakuza and the right wingists, the people who didn't bend to America. So, you know, in Japan, the right wingists are people who, if you ever came to Japan, there's a big bus with a big Japanese flag with blaring like all Japanese. They're talking
the announcements,
shit about,
right?
Yeah, they talk bad about foreigners. They say Japan is #1. You know, those are the people that Yamatodamashii represented because they were standing towards the samurai, staying Japan strong. You know, so everyone didn't. You know, the first thing I got from my gym was like, they were like, no, we don't want to wear that. We're embarrassed to wear that. So like, whatever. And then I remember wearing it around the town. I remember getting giggles from high school students. I could hear them say Yamatodamashii, and they're like laughing at me. And the only thing I thought was that the word is a nice word. I mean, I believe the word. I already learned more about the word, and I was thinking, if they're laughing, all it shows is ignorance, that they don't understand the word. Then all of a sudden, we started having people writing up on the website, writing up on my MySpace. In Japan, there was a one called Mixi. Oh. But they were contacting me on Mixi saying they want to buy the shirt, and I kind of looked and I talked to my manager, who eventually ended up stealing millions of dollars from me. This guy Shoichi Sakai. I talked it over with him and said, you know what? Let's put out some shirts and let's try and sell it. And man, there was a huge boom. We sold over in the 5 years, we've sold over $3 million of t-shirts.
Whoa.
T-shirts. Just t-shirts.
Fuck.
Yeah. So, you know, that was crazy. So, you know, that was the birth of Yamatodamashii t-shirts. The second thing I wanted to mention about the UFC 13 was Mark Coleman. He was nuts, man. You could see him coming out. He's screaming, telling everybody, scream, Ray. And then I remember across the way, him screaming and Mark Alger pumping up Royce Alger, saying, I remember him specifically saying, you're going to fuck him up so bad that this is like his words, fuck him up so bad that his own mother is going to ask him for an ID to get in his own house. I remember hearing that. And for me, it wasn't like, there was no fear, there was no anger. There was more like, okay, we'll see. I felt like, we'll see. We'll see if you can do that. Give me your best. Let's see if you can do it. If you can do it, hats off. If not, we'll see. You know, so I remember that. And I remember after I beat Royce, we were like just in like his locker rooms next to each other. And Coleman was so pissed, he was pounding on this metal door. I remember it was not, I don't know if he was, I'd like to get him on a podcast to find out what he was doing or if he even remembered it. He was drunk. I remember he was drunk and he was pounding, he was swearing, he was so pissed off that they lost. And I was looking at Egan like, fuck, I hope that fucking guy doesn't come through the door. Yeah, so I remember those two things was really prominent in my mind. And
yeah,
I mean, what an experience, though, man. I mean, UFC 13 was the last UFC that they allowed you to choose whether you want to wear gloves or not. And of course, I like, I obviously didn't see MMA as a sport because I chose to fight barefisted because I wanted to have it as close to a street fight as it possibly could be. Yeah, so I chose not to have gloves at all.
Yeah, well, it's cool that you've always got that win, but there's always the question of what if it had been, we got into it with Guy, right? And Guy had said like, oh, I'm glad we didn't fight because he knew how hard of a fight it would be. But I think a lot of fans would still wonder how that fight would have gone and how the rest of the tournament would be. But it's part of UFC history. It that even triggered the whole Tito and Guy and the Lions Den rivalry. So it's
for me, I'm not either way, or I'm not like wish it happened, or I'm not bummed that it didn't happen. He could have beat me, I could have beat him. Who knows on any given day? But I do. With that said, I'd like to point out a point that is a little bit off a tangent, but I think it brings up a good point about regretting. I always say regret is a choice. If you regret things in life, you choose to regret. Because if you're regretting not taking a certain situation, if there's one road that you took if you didn't walk the other road, you never know what happened on the other road. As good as that may seem, as bad as the road that you took went, how do you know the other road wouldn't have been worse? Or it could have been better. So if you choose to believe that the road you didn't take was a better road, then you choose to regret that. If you choose to believe that, understand that, hey, maybe that road would have been hard too. Maybe that road would have went worse. You wouldn't regret what you chose. So it all depends on you. If you chose one road and it didn't go well, you can choose to believe that the other road would have been better, and then you'd regret it. But I choose not to, and I choose to say that the road I chose was the best road, no matter what. Because I never know what happened on the other road, and no sense pondering on it. It's something that you'll never know. So regretting it is something that you're guessing and choosing to regret. So I just wanted to put it out there. I thought there's something good for people to know that regretting things is a choice. Think back at something that you regret and think like I regret having the marijuana in my car the day that the police, I could choose to regret that. Because what happened? I lost my freedom. I got arrested. But then, if I didn't get caught, if I chose not to put the marijuana on, if I chose to drive away instead of parking that parking, I wouldn't have been arrested. That could be something that I could see as a better road, and I could regret not being arrested. I mean, I regret being arrested. But who knows? What if that road led for me to get more brave, have a bigger growing house, get caught with more weed, get caught distributing. And then I get arrested and I definitely get more jail time. Then I would have, then I won't regret that thinking that road went that way. So, anything, if you think back in your life, if anything that you really regret, think about it. Try to think about the other road that you regret not taking. Think of all the scenarios that could have been worse. And there is a lot. There is a lot. So yeah. I believe with that said, I'm finishing off this podcast, remember everybody, regretting is a choice. You choose to regret. So I just choose not to regret. There's nothing in my life that I regret.
Yeah, that's great advice. And it's a great way to end this podcast. So thanks everybody for watching. Please like and subscribe. Give us a comment. And we'll talk to you again soon.